title with weight, Our Lady of Ransom. A mother with keys in her hand and chains at her feet. A promise that doesn't blink when doors lock. In Spain they call her La Merced, Our Lady of Mercy, and the name sounds like a door swinging open. The story runs like a rescue line through centuries. When people were taken, Christians raised money, risked themselves, and brought them home. Some even traded places. Picture Barcelona under a night sky. A merchant named Peter Nolasco, already spending himself to free captives. Can't sleep. Markets echo in his head. Bids, chains, ledgers, faces. Tradition says heaven interrupts his numbers with a mission. Build a brotherhood whose whole job is redemption. Not just prayers whispered at a safe distance. Deliveries with receipts. The next day moves like destiny disguised as paperwork. Allies appear. Raymond of Penafort, brilliant and holy. King James I of Aragon, young and bold. 3 yeses line up and the door swings wider. The new order takes a name that sounds like breath, mercy, and a uniform white as a clean page. They step into ports where hope is priced by the pound, and into rooms where sorrow keeps accounts. Their rule is simple and terrifying. If a ransom stalls, a friar may stay behind in the captive's place until freedom arrives. He leaves with nothing but his word, his habit, and a belief that love is collateral enough. The 4th vow is a sentence that changes any room. I will give my life, if needed, for the captive. This is why the mantle in the paintings is so wide. Artists show Mary spreading cloth over kings and beggars, mothers and soldiers, sinners and saints, all under the same cover. It's not fashion. It's doctrine with sleeves. No one is too complicated to rescue. Other images place shackles at her feet and keys in her hands. She is not a symbol parked in stained glass. She looks like a lady who knows locks and how to open them. The feast falls on September 24th. Barcelona throws a citywide thank you, La Merce, with human towers reaching for the sky and fireworks pretending to argue with the stars. Far from Spain, the title migrates like a good rumor. Our Lady of Mercy in parishes across the world. Processions in Latin America. Quiet rosaries in prison chapels where hope has to raise its hand one finger at a time. The same woman, the same mission. What hooks us isn't nostalgia or pageantry. It's the cost. Mercy that does not cost anything is just sentiment. Mercy that pays becomes ransom, and ransom is measurable. Coins counted, names recorded, lives changed, sometimes lives offered. That's why this title still bites. Long after the old markets closed or moved online. Different prisons. Same need. The order still visits cells and wards, fights trafficking, and stands beside those chained by debt, addiction, fear, or grief. So here's the line we'll walk in this story. Not a museum tour, but an instruction manual for courage. We'll follow the ledgers and the legends, the numbers that wobble and the names that don't. We'll ask how a vow like "take my place" can survive modern air. And we'll end where every good rescue ends, with keys in your hand. If you've ever felt locked in, or watched someone you love count days like links, stay. The mother with the mantle keeps room. Lady with the keys knows your door. And the word that started in Barcelona can still be spoken over your life, in any language, tonight. Mercy. One sleepless night rewrote the economy of love. In Barcelona, a merchant of mercy named Peter Nolasco stared at ledgers that didn't add up. Faces bought back, but far too many still priced and waiting. He had emptied purses, crossed seas, haggled with brokers whose smiles never reached their eyes. Mercy flowed. The chains kept coming. Tradition says the answer arrived not as comfort but as orders. Form a brotherhood whose whole purpose is redemption. Organized, accountable, relentless. Reports claim a vision. Exact details vary. The mission is certain. Next morning, the idea refused to fade. Nolasco spoke with Raymond of Penafort, jurist, Dominican, strategist of souls, and the plan sharpened like a key being cut. King James I of Aragon, young and newly awake to his crown's duties, gave protection and room to move. 3 lives aligned, and a city that knew the price of prisoners learned a new price. Sacrifice on purpose. The year fixed itself in memory, 1218, not as a page in a textbook, but as a door that swung open. A rule was drafted, a white habit chosen, a sign of clean resolve. The name settled like breath, Order of Mercy. Their charter sounded simple to the ear and impossible to the world. Redeem captives, body and soul. Not sporadically, systematically. Mercy became measurable. They created funds in parishes and court halls, so generosity could outlast mood. They logged gifts not for applause but to keep promises from drifting. They set routes through the Western Mediterranean, Barcelona, Valencia, Mallorca, and across to ports where markets clanged like chains. Every mile said the same thing: love travels. They also named the real enemy. Not a nation, but captivity itself. Some captives wore shackles. Others wore shame. Some were sailbound. Others were stuck in sins that felt like ropes. The order refused to choose between the two. They ransomed bodies with coin and ransomed souls. They learned the craft of holy bargaining. Never pay so high that you teach kidnappers to raise the price. Never pay so low that you forget a person is not a bargain. Trust God, but count coins. Trust mercy, but sign receipts. When deals stalled, they waited without wasting time. Visiting prisons, bringing food, writing names into books so no one could vanish by accident. Mercy hates paperwork until it learns paperwork can save people. Skeptics argued then, as now, were the visions polished in retellings? Did ransom sometimes become politics under another name? Do the numbers cited by later writers stretch like nets in high seas? Fair questions. The records are uneven. The centuries were messy, but the pattern is impossible to miss. Money moved, men moved, doors opened, and lives with prices on their heads walked home with names again. In art, Mary began to appear with keys and shackles, not as decoration, but as tools. The city knew exactly what those meant. Keys for doors, keys for debts, keys for the habits that make prisons inside the chest. Under her mantle, rich and poor crowded together by design, because mercy refuses to play favorites when the problem is chains. By the time the first decade closed, the order had made something new in the world: a networked mercy. Parishes collected, friars crossed, monarchs contributed, mothers prayed, and ledgers testified. Mercy stopped being a mood and became an infrastructure, as visible as a harbor and as steady as a clock. Which brings us to the sentence that still stops rooms and startles algorithms. The line you'll hear next, the one that takes Our Lady of Ransom from beautiful title to dangerous vow. If love is real, it pays. If mercy is serious, it stays. And if a door won't open, someone may have to trade places until it does. Most orders promise poverty, chastity, obedience. The Mercedarians add a sentence that feels like a door closing behind you. If needed, we will take the captive's place. Not poetry, practice. A friar signs his name, boards a ship, and walks into a cell carrying nothing but a habit and a promise. He stays until ransom arrives. If ransom fails, he still stays. They called it a fourth vow because the usual three couldn't hold this weight. The wording shifts across centuries, but the point never budges. Become the pledge. Mercy doesn't only count coins. It becomes collateral. Imagine the exchange. Shackles off one person. Shackles on the friar. A ledger updated. A ship booked. A mother's kitchen set for a welcome home. Somewhere else, a chapel light burns for the one who stayed behind. The stories that echo loudest are names, not numbers. Serapion sails, bargains, runs out of options, and offers himself. A man-sized receipt with God's name in the memo line. Weeks pass. The price doesn't clear. The friar pays with everything left to pay. People at home learn the news the way grief always travels. Too fast and not fast enough. Raymond non-natus returns from redemption missions with a mouth scarred shut by captors who didn't want preaching added to the balance sheet. The gag is meant to humiliate. It becomes a homily that needs no words. Not every substitution ended in blood. Many ended in deliveries. A captive walked free. A friar walked out thinner and smiling. A parish threw a feast that tasted like relief. Some took months. Some took years. All took nerves that don't announce themselves. If you wonder how they didn't panic, the answer is simple and demanding. They went 2 by 2, grace and structure. Grace, prayer that keeps a heart from crumbling. Structure, ledgers, routes, rules, superiors with maps and patience. Mercy ran on fuel and rails at the same time. Skeptics then and now pressed the edges. Was substitution ever abused? Did some friars act rashly, raising prices by eager spending? Could politics twist redemption into leverage? Fair to ask. The order answered by writing the vow inside obedience. No lone heroes. Redemptions were authorized, budgets set, risks weighed, and every life placed under rule. The vow did not authorize chaos. It disciplined courage. What did this do to a city? It taught people to budget for mercy. Bakers gave a loaf a week. Merchants skimmed profit. Kings emptied chests. Widows slipped coins into boxes the way they slipped prayers into God's hands. Schoolboys learned geography by ports of ransom. Schoolgirls learned saints by names of the rescued. The calendar itself learned a new rhythm. Collect, cross, return, rejoice, repeat. And Mary's title, Our Lady of Ransom, Our Lady of Mercy, stopped being an image and became an instruction. Painters kept widening the mantle because streets kept crowding under it. Plague or poverty, war or debt, prisoners behind bars and prisoners behind habits they couldn't break. She holds keys in art because her sons kept looking for locks to open, even when the lock was on the wrong side of the door. Here's the hard mirror. We romanticize substitution until it asks us for anything. The vow is not asking you to book a ship tonight. It is asking you to take someone's place where it hurts. Stand between a friend and a debt, between a neighbor and eviction, between a child and a bad choice, between a prisoner and forgetting. It is asking for a Tuesday that reads like theology. I stayed so you could go free. If that sounds impossible, you're hearing it right. Mercy is expensive on purpose. That's why the order trained courage inside community and cash boxes. That's why the church wrapped fire in rule. And that's why the title still works on modern air. The prisons changed shape. The vow did not. Mercy got organized. Parishes kept boxes near the door. Guilds pledged a cut. Queens slipped jewels into sealed bags. Kings matched the town coin for coin. Scribes opened ledgers and wrote names, dates, sums, ports. Mercy stopped being a feeling and became entries you could audit. Routes formed like arteries. Barcelona, Valencia, Mallorca, across blue water to Tunis, Algiers, Fez, sometimes farther east when winds and treaties allowed. A captain's log, a friar's notebook, a city waiting with a list of the taken. They bargained hard. Never so high you feed the market. Never so low you forget a person's worth. Picture one crossing. A friar with a sea-creased habit steps onto a pier where the air smells of salt and iron. He greets a broker whose smile is practiced and thin. Coins are counted slowly, loudly, so hope won't float away on assumptions. Names are confirmed so no one vanishes by paperwork. A hand is stamped. A gate opens. A mother's knees give out when a familiar face walks through. Receipts were not just numbers. They were letters home. Your son has been secured. A scribe writes, the ink steady. He will sail with us when winds favor. In the margin, a small cross for a captive who died in transit. A tear-shaped blot where the writer didn't stop quickly enough. Mercy sings and sometimes it mourns. Traditional tallies say tens of thousands came home across centuries. Scholars note the totals are rounded and documents patchy in places. Fair. But archives still hold contracts and correspondences, and parish books still list collections that rose like tides whenever a mission was announced. The point isn't a perfect number. It's a pattern that lasted. Not every rescue was coins for keys. Sometimes it was people for people, a brother staying behind to guarantee a future delivery. He learned his captor's dialect. He learned the cell's shadows. He learned to count days by the call to prayer. Back home, the city moved like a single body. Bakers promised a loaf a week for the fund. Shipwrights repaired a hull at cost. Children carried sealed pouches from house to house with the solemn authority only children have. When the friars returned, bells rang until hands hurt. Processions formed not to show off but to escort people home. Some rescues were quiet. A man returned at night to spare a family the spectacle, knocking on a door that hadn't expected hope before winter. A woman arrived with a shawl around her face, walked past the church, and only then let herself cry. The friars stepped back like good midwives. The miracle had happened. Their job was already shrinking so a life could grow again. Mercy also meant aftercare. Trauma doesn't end at the harbor. The order and local parishes found work, counsel, a bed that belonged to you, not to your jailer. Where crimes had been committed along the way, confessors handled sin like surgeons. Clean cuts, clean bandage, hope that could stand up without crutches. The mantle in the art makes more sense now. It's not sentiment. It's infrastructure with fabric on it. Under that cloth stand donors who gave more than they could, captives who returned thinner and braver, widows who paid for a stranger and called it Thanksgiving, and friars who learned how to haggle without losing charity. Critics in every century asked the same necessary questions. Did ransoms sometimes fund more taking? Did politics hitch a ride on piety? Could zeal overspend? The Mercedarians answered with rule. Budgets approved, missions authorized, accounts audited, superiors obeyed. Mercy thrives when it's both fire and frame. Open one ledger at random and you can imagine the room. A table, a candle, a list of the missing. A mother spelling a name aloud because speaking it keeps it from fading. A friar marking a paid line and then closing his eyes in relief. Art taught mercy to people who never touched a ledger. In one image, Mary opens a mantle that could cover a city. Not dainty architectural. You see kings and beggars shoulder to shoulder, widows and merchants, sailors fresh from the docks, children craning for space, all under one cloth. The message lands before words do. Mercy is bigger than rank, quicker than judgment, stronger than fear. No one earns the shade. Everyone is invited. Look closer and you'll see keys in her hand and shackles at her feet. Keys mean doors. Doors mean choices. The artist isn't subtle. Mercy doesn't admire chains. It breaks them. Sometimes that meant opening a cell. Sometimes it meant unlocking the heart that kept relatching itself. The keys also point to responsibility. What you open, you must enter. What you enter, you must heal. In another scene, Peter Nolasco kneels while Mary lowers a white scapular, 2 panels of simple cloth that will become a uniform for work that is anything but simple. The color isn't a costume. It's a promise of clean dealing. Wear mercy close to the heart and front to back. No part of you off duty. Later, faithful people will wear a scapular of Our Lady of Mercy as a daily reminder. Keep space under your mantle. Keep keys ready. Some paintings place Raymond of Penafort with a book and a pen, law bent toward liberation. Others set King James I off to the side, his crown small compared to the mantle's spread, a quiet nod that even power kneels to charity. On the edges you'll catch captives returning, ropes cut, hands tentative, faces unsure how to smile again. Mercy doesn't just free, it reteaches freedom. Why did the mantle need to be so wide? Because captivity wears many wardrobes. When you pray this title, you're asking for room under the cloth for all of that, and the nerve to hold it open. The art also hides a tutorial. See the feet? Mary's stance is braced, as if mantling the world takes legs and back. Mercy isn't a mood-lighting effect. It's a posture you can get tired holding. The faces under the mantle show relief, suspicion, gratitude, impatience. A spectrum you'll meet the second you start helping. The lesson: keep holding the cloth anyway. Now about the shackles. In some images they're snapped. In others they lie intact. A choice. Mercy can break what binds. Mercy can also wait beside someone while they decide to hand you the key. Not every chain yields to force. Some open only when the bound heart says, "I'm ready." That's why the order learned to bargain and pastor at the same time. Coins for bodies, confession for souls. The scapular comes back like a refrain. 2 small cloths, thin as prayer and strong as habit. People sometimes treat devotions like charms. The art won't let you. The panels don't repel trouble. They remind you what to do when trouble arrives. Make room, unlock, substitute when needed, and keep receipts. If you wear it like marching orders with a plan attached. Who will stand under your mantle this month? Which keys will you cut and carry? There's one more picture worth holding, Mary's eyes. They don't gloat over victory. They steady the room. She stares like a woman who has seen too many cells and decided to spend the rest of her life emptying them. The artists weren't just decorating altars. They were training consciences. Learn that look. It keeps you from pity that performs and pushes you toward mercy that pays. Walk through any city and you'll see the mantle still at work. La Merce in Barcelona's streets on September 24th, where human towers wobble into trust and fireworks teach the sky about gratitude. In Latin America, parishes lift statues and neighborhoods lift each other. Our Lady of Mercy carried in hands that also carry groceries for the week. On September 24th, a city becomes a sermon. Barcelona lifts its eyes and its neighbors at once. Crowds surge, bells argue with fireworks, and families point upward as if hope were something you could stack. They call it La Merce. But under the music is the same old sentence. No captive left behind. Processions move like rivers that know their bed. A statue of Our Lady of Mercy travels beneath balconies thick with people. The mantle looks wider outdoors like a tent big enough for a city. Keys glint. Shackles lie quiet. You see sailors with caps, nurses in white, shopkeepers, prisoners on day release, mothers who have forgiven more than they can say, all under one promise. Feast becomes practice fast. Parish booths sign up volunteers for prison visits. A table collects grocery vouchers for families one bill away from hunger. A notice points to a hotline for trafficking survivors and to shelters that need sheets by Friday. A deacon explains how to write letters to someone inside so they remember their name and not just their number. Elsewhere, the feast is quiet. A chaplain slips into a cell-block chapel with a small icon of Our Lady of Mercy taped to a Bible. 10 men form a circle. They say the Hail Mary like men building a bridge without boards. Later, a woman sits in a clinic waiting room, arm around a stranger in withdrawal, praying one bead at a time because that is what her hands can do. Modern captivities rarely rattle chains. Short, they hide in debt that compounds shame, in addictions that rename themselves stress, in workloads that colonize the heart, in isolation that tricks a mind into smaller rooms. The vow translates cleanly. Be there and pay something real. That might mean cash, rent, meds, a bus card. It might mean hours, court dates, job applications, meetings where your presence turns a system into a person. It might mean reputation when you stand with someone no algorithm would recommend. Mercy needs infrastructure as much as inspiration. The parish creates a bond fund with strict rules and clear audits. The business offers second-chance hiring without second-class pay. The neighborhood builds a food co-op that turns charity into dignity. A school waives a fee that kept a child out of a club where friends and futures form. None of this looks dramatic on video. All of it unlocks something. And yes, risk is built in. Someone will use you. Someone will fail after you fronted the time and the fare. The old rule still applies. Be wise and be willing. Don't pay in ways that raise the price of harm. Do pay in ways that lower the cost of coming home. Keep receipts so your heart doesn't rewrite history out of frustration or pride. The scapular goes from art to assignment here. 2 squares of cloth that rub the collarbone like a soft alarm. Make room. Carry keys. Wear it and decide in advance what you'll do when the ask arrives. A budget line called mercy, not miscellaneous. A standing hour each month for a visit or a call. A list of names so your prayer doesn't forget who is waiting on the other side of doors. If the feast feels far, start where your feet are. Meet the school counselor about lunch debt. Ask the parish office whom they have to say no to every week and turn one no into yes. Learn the bus routes so you can ride with, not just drive past. If you can't open a door today, sit by it so no one thinks the hallway is their whole future. So let the feast teach your week. Celebrate, then schedule. Process, then pay. Sing, then sign. Keep the energy that raises towers and redirect it into ledgers that free people. In the next scene, we'll face the hard questions. Numbers, motives, legends, and hold to what can be said without blinking. Mercy's cost is real, and its returns are, too. Mercy is beautiful, history is complicated. If you've been nodding so far, this is where we slow down and ask the hard things. Did the visions to Nolasco and his allies happen exactly as told? Sources disagree. The mission, redeem captives, stands solid. The midnight details arrive through later tellings. Hold both truths. A work that changed lives, and stories polished by people who loved that work. Humility lives in that tension. What about the numbers? Tens of thousands redeemed. Tradition rounds up. Ledgers fill gaps. Some lists went to sea and never came back. Scholars want totals. Families want names. The fairest sentence is this: the scale was large and lasting, even if the math isn't tidy. Our takeaway isn't a statistic. It's a system. Funds raised, routes sailed, people walked home. The receipts outnumber the rumors. Another question cuts deeper. Did paying ransoms incentivize more taking? The order wrestled with that, too. They bargained hard to lower the market for human bodies, set ceilings, coordinated with authorities, and refused terms that trained villains what profit to expect. They also built relationships that turned some captors into partners over time. Mercy that only feels is cheap. Mercy that thinks is safer for the next captive. And then there's the context. Frontiers where faiths and empires shoved each other. Seas patrolled by pirates who saluted profit more than any creed. It's easy to flatten this into us versus them. Don't. Suffering makes a fork in every soul. Prey on the weak or protect the weak. The Mercedarian story is simply this: choose protection, even when it costs. That choice translates into any century without importing old grudges. What about abuses inside holy projects? Zeal without wisdom, leaders who liked power too much, donors who wanted their name on mercy. The order answered with rule and audit. Missions approved, accounts reviewed, obedience required. Not flawless, guarded. That's a word worth stealing for our own work. Now ask the most modern question. Who counts as captive today? If you picture only iron bars, you will miss the rooms where freedom dies quietly. Captive to credit you can't out-earn. Captive to clicks that hollow a life. Captive to anger that feels like armor. Captive to loneliness with a good job and a locked phone. The title Our Lady of Mercy walks into all of those and still carries keys. So what can we say without blinking? First, mercy costs and should. If it doesn't cost, it's just a mood. Second, mercy works best in community. Parish funds, clear policies, partners who hold us accountable when our zeal outruns our judgment. Third, mercy needs aftercare. Bring people home and then help them stay home. Work, counsel, friendship, faith. What should we avoid? Romanticizing suffering. Turning captives into props for our virtue. Paying in ways that raise the price on the next victim. Announcing mercy in a tone that feels like victory over someone else. The mantle makes one family, not two teams. Walk under it that way. Last, measure your results like a Mercedarian would. Not only by how many you free, but by how much fear you remove from the calculus of the poor. If a neighbor knows, in this parish, someone will stand with me, you've lowered the ransom on the whole street. That's a statistic heaven keeps better than we do. No legend is perfect. No ledger tells everything. But this much is clear. The mantle is wide on purpose. The keys are real. The vow is dangerous and necessary. Mercy entered the marketplace with a plan and left with people who had been sold as less per person. This isn't a legend to admire. It's a job to accept. Our Lady of Ransom hands you two things today: a mantle that makes room and a ring of keys that opens what fear keeps shut. Mercy is not complete until it gets measurable. Start small and specific. Pick one door to open and one person to shelter. Write their name where you can't ignore it. Calendar, envelope, phone lock screen. Mercy thrives when it has a deadline and a budget line. Tell God you're serious and then act like you heard him. Open, unlock, substitute when love requires. Here's a 7-day plan you can actually do. It's not theory. It's keys and receipts. Day 1, the list. Sit for 10 minutes and list captivities within reach. Lunch dead at your kid's school. A neighbor's overdue bill. A friend on remand who never gets mail. a relative drowning in habits they call coping? Choose one. Day 2, the mantle. Make room for that one. Block an hour, clear a seat at your table. Set aside a quiet evening for a hard conversation. Write it down so the day can't swallow it. Day 3, the key. Find the mechanism that actually opens this door. The right office, the form, the phone call, the bus route, the court date, the meeting. Learn it for them or stand beside them while they do. Do not leave them in a hallway alone. Day 4, the pledge. Pay something real. The fee that blocks the file, the week of groceries that keeps a family in place, the bus card that gets someone to meetings on time. If you can't pay money, pay presents, rides, childcare, advocacy. Day 5, the substitution. Trade your comfort for their chance. Take the late call, write the statement, spend your social capital on an introduction. Sit with them in a room where they feel small. If you must carry any of their weight, carry it quietly. Day 6, the ledger. Open a simple note titled Mercy Receipts. Log what you did, what it cost, what still blocks the door. Add one line for aftercare, how you'll help them stay free next week. Day 7, the altar. Bring the name to Mass or your quiet prayer. Place the week on the altar with gratitude and ask Mary for another name. Repeat the loop until it feels like breathing. Make one pledge sentence you can say out loud. In the name of Our Lady of Mercy, I will make room, I will carry keys, and I will pay something real for at least one captive this month. Say it now. Write it down. Build infrastructure so the fire lasts. Put mercy as a permanent item in your budget. Schedule a monthly prison letter hour or court support shift. Start a tiny bond fund with 2 friends and a spreadsheet. Require 2 signatures, set caps, keep audits. Mercy grows best inside rules. Guard your heart as you go. Some doors won't open yet. Some people will step back into rooms you helped unlock. Don't shame them. Don't romanticize them. Don't quit on them. Keep your stance braced like Mary's in the paintings. When you can't break the chain, wait beside it with them, and keep the key ready for the day they reach. Here is our closing prayer as assignment. Quiet, steady, true. Our Lady of Mercy, lend me your mantle today. Put in my hand the key I need. Courage for my fear, patience for my anger, generosity for my excuses. Show me the door, the name, and the cost, and help me pay it with love. Now look around your room. There is a door you can open before night. There is a person you can shelter before the weekends. The mantle isn't canvas anymore. It's your calendar. The keys aren't on a statue anymore. They're in your pocket. Walk out under that cloth. Carry those keys. And when someone asks why you chose to pay, say the only sentence the world cannot argue with. Because mercy ransomed me, and now it's my turn.